What's going on, everybody? My name is Matt, and welcome to part 5 of this JavaScript series. Now, in this episode, we're going to talk about what are known as arithmetic operators. And let me give you the formal definition of that so it's not my words. These are the words of the well-known and wise ChatGPT. Okay, ChatGPT for the win. An arithmetic operator is a symbol used in programming and math to perform basic mathematical operations on numerical values such as integers or floating point numbers. These operators allow you to carry out calculations like addition, subtraction, multiplication, division, and others that we're going to discuss shortly. ChatGPT just has the best definitions. If I try to explain it myself, it might not come across correctly because I would just say, oh, well, arithmetic operators are just adding, subtracting, multiplying, dividing, etc., etc. But it's a lot more technical than that. So we're going to go with ChatGPT's definition. But anyway, we're going to talk about different arithmetic operators that you can use within JavaScript. And there's actually going to be one type of operator that you probably have never seen in math class before. Maybe you have, but it's something in programming that's used quite a bit that's important to know. And we're going to be using it whenever we're trying to solve problems down the road and doing some practice questions, things like that. But let's first start with the easy ones. Let's start with addition. This is any math problem that has the plus sign. So let's just say, 5 plus 5. Well, when we run this code, it's going to give us the result of 10. Actually, technically, if we run this code, it's not going to give us anything because we're not console logging anything. But this plus sign is saying I want to add the first and the second value. I mean, it's something that we learned in math. I'm not going to spend any more time on that. Then we have what is known as subtraction. The same exact thing, 5 minus 5, which is going to give us the result of 0. Then we have multiplication. And the way that multiplication works is you're going to use the star symbol. So 5 times 5. You're not going to use the X like we may have learned in grade school growing up. You're going to use a star. And then when you're doing division, which is 5 divided by 5, which will give us the result of 1. You're going to use a forward slash. There's not obviously a symbol for the dot, line dot. So in coding, you're going to use a forward slash for division. The next one we're going to talk about is what is known as exponential. So this is like raising something to the power of something else. So let's say we want to do 5 to the power of 2. The way that you would do that is with 2 stars. Whereas I know a lot of us learned it doing it this way, where you use the caret, 5 up to. But in coding, you're going to use, or specifically with JavaScript, you're going to use 2 stars. Then we have what is known, this one we're going to spend a little bit of time on, we have what is known as modulus. This is something that you might have not learned in math class. So the way that what a modulus is, it's first indicated with a percent sign. But let me just give you an example of a problem so that we can know how to solve this. Let's say we have 10 modulus, we'll just say 3. Now, the way that this problem works is it's going to see how many times this second value goes into the first value, and then whatever the remainder is, that's going to be your result. So let me just show you what this looks like with a console log. Console.log, and we're going to put this in parentheses. And when we run this, remember, the remainder is going to be the result. So it's going to say, how many times does 3 go into 10? Well, we know basic math. We know 3 goes into 10 3 times. So what is 3 times 3? 3 times 3 is 9. And what is left over after we subtract this first value minus 9? Because we obviously couldn't put another 3 there because that would be 12. What is the remainder? What is left over in the end? It's 1. So when we run our program here, we're going to see the value is 1 because 3 goes into here 3 times and it leaves a remainder of 1. Okay, I hope that makes a little bit of sense, but this is going to be crucial to understand once we start talking about divisibility. So like, for example, if I put 2 here, 2 goes into 10 5 times and it has no remainder, which means that 10 is divisible by 2. Okay, so that's what we're going to be using this for whenever we're doing different problems later on. We're going to be using this quite a bit in some examples that we have coming up whenever we start talking about conditional statements and things like that. But that's the way that modulus works. It wants to find out, is there a remainder after you put the second number into the first number? If so, what is it? And whatever that result is what the answer is. Unless you're trying to check if, for some reason, 10 modulus 2 equals something else, then you'll get a Boolean value, but we're not going to get into that in this episode. So that's what a modulus is. Then we have what is known as increment. I'm going to actually go ahead and remove this console log because we're going to need a console log here in a second to show you how increment works. What an increment is it is a way for you to increase your value by 1 without you having to say, okay, I want to take this value and add 1. Let me give you an example. It makes more sense when you're looking at an example. Let's say we have a variable called num, and that num equals 2. Well, if we wanted to increase num by 1, you could write it this way. Num equals num plus 1. That is a totally valid way to write this. But a more useful and simpler way to write it without having to write num twice is you could just go num plus plus. And what this does is this says I want to take the number and I want to add 1 as the new value for the variable num. Now, where you put the plus plus is very important. This is right here is known as a post increment. This means that it gets the value of num first and then it increments it. So for example, if I were to say console.log num plus plus, it's still going to give me 2. And the reason why is it's saying we're going to log num first and say 2, and then after this console log has already given us 2, we're going to increment it to 3. The way that we fix that is we use what is known as a pre-increment by putting the plus plus in front of num, and now when we run it, we're going to get 3 because it's saying increment this first and then give us the new value. So you're going to see this used in code a lot, primarily when you're using loops. We're far away from talking about loops, but once we start talking about that, you're going to see why we would use post or pre-increment and things like that. And you're going to see the increment tool used a lot. So that's what the increment is. The increment is simply plus plus. So we're just going to say in this case num plus plus. And then you have what is known as decrement, and decrement is the same exact thing, but it subtracts 1. Okay, and then it's also important to know that math always follows the order of operations. We learned a lot of this in middle school, or maybe you learned it in grade school. I don't even know when they teach this now, but you'll see, PEMDAS. Excuse me. Let me put this in a comment so it doesn't mess up my code. But we have what is known as PEMDAS, which is, parentheses. Then we have exponential. Then we have multiplication. Then we have division. And then addition. And then subtraction. This is the order of operations that it's going to follow whenever you're running math or any kind of arithmetic in code. Okay? That's why, if you guys remember me putting things in parentheses before running that two-string function whenever we were talking about type conversion, is because we're saying I want to have this problem solved first, and then I want to run this function. So the parentheses is always going to, that's a great way for you whenever you're coding to say, do this first and then do something else, okay? Obviously, parentheses are used for other things as well, like functions and things like that. But when you're doing any kind of arithmetic, it's going to evaluate it in this order, okay? Just like any other calculator would, coding is no different, okay? That being said, that's going to be it for arithmetic operators. In the next lesson, we're going to talk about assignment operators, and I believe we're also going to talk about comparison operators as well, because assignment operators is going to be something that's very quick. So I'm thinking I'm going to, as I'm looking at my notes, I'm going to combine those into the same lesson. Otherwise, we're going to have an assignment operator lesson for 2 minutes, and then we have nothing um, short of 10 minutes in the next episode. So anyway, just for the same exact reason that we talked about comments and then data types, it just makes sense to put them into one video so you're not having to get a short video and then wait a while for another longer video. Anyways, I'm blabbering now. I'm thinking out loud. I tend to do that. I don't know if it's ADHD. I don't know if I'm just crazy, whatever it might be. I don't care. But I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. See ya.